dear student, today in this video I am going to discuss about the class 9 geography elective subject, the chapter 1 weather and climate, and this one part 5, and today's topic is factors affecting weather and climate. We have already come to know that the major elements of weather and climate are temperature, pressure, humidity, wind and precipitation. Means we know that there are some elements of weather and climate, and these are temperature, pressure, humidity, wind and precipitation. All these elements go on changing in time and over places. Means according to the time and place, these elements are changed. The changes and variation in these elements depends on certain factors. In other words, some factors control the weather and climate of a place. And these factors are known as factors of weather and climate. Means there are some factors which are responsible for the different weather and climate of a place, and these are called factors of weather and climate. And these factors include latitude, elevation, nearness to sea, ocean currents, location of hills and mountains, wind, characteristics of land, slope of the land and vegetation. And these factors are discussed in the following paragraphs. The number one factor is latitude. Latitude is another important determining factor of climate. The sun's rays fall sometimes vertically and sometimes obliquely over the globe at different latitudes, and hence there occurs variation in days and nights. মানে কেতিয়াবা সান ৰে ভাৰ্টিকেলি পৰে, ভাৰ্টিকেলি মানে ডাইৰেক্টকৈ পৰে, আৰু কেতিয়াবা অব্লিকলি পৰে, অব্লিকলি মানে নট ইন এ ডাইৰেক্ট ৱে, আৰু সেইমতে ডে বা নাইটত ৱেডাৰ আৰু ক্লাইমেট বেলেগ বেলেগ হয়. When sun's ray fall vertically on a place, temperature increase. মানে sun ray যেতিয়া vertically পৰে বা ডাইৰেক্টকৈ পৰে তেতিয়া temperature increase হয়. As against this, when it falls obliquely, its intensity becomes less and the temperature is also less. আৰু obliquely পৰিলে মানে ডাইৰেক্টকৈ নপৰে যেতিয়া, তেতিয়া কি হয়, temperature less হয়. We all know that the sun's ray become more and more oblique from the equator to the poles as latitude increase. মানে যেতিয়া latitude increase হয় from equator to the poles, তেতিয়া temperature কি হয়, কমি গৈ থাকে. Moreover, the oblique rays have to travel longer distance through the atmosphere, and thus these have low temperature, and that is why with the increase of latitude from the equator, that is 0 degree, to the north pole, that is 90 degree north, and the south pole, that is 90 degree south, temperature decreases gradually. মানে equator যেহেতু sun ray ডাইৰেক্টকৈ পৰে তাত সেইকাৰণে temperature বেছি, আৰু তাৰ পৰা যিমানেই নৰ্থ প'ল বা সাউথ প'লৰ ফালে যোৱা হয় সিমানে কি হয়, temperature decrease হৈ গৈ থাকে. As a result, we experience hot climate in the equatorial region, temperate climate in the mid-latitude region, and cold climate in the polar regions. আৰু সেইটো কাৰণে আমি কি হয়, ইকুৱেটৰত বেছিকৈ গৰম অনুভৱ কৰোঁ কাৰণ তাৰ ক্লাইমেটটো হট হয়. তাতকৈ অলপ ওপৰত যোৱাৰ লগে লগে টেম্পাৰেট ক্লাইমেট পাওঁ, আৰু যেতিয়া নৰ্থ প'ল বা সাউথ প'লত আমি পাওঁগৈ তেতিয়া তাত আমি কোল্ড ক্লাইমেট অবজাৰ্ভ কৰোঁ. The next factor is elevation. Elevation means the height. There is notable variation of temperature along with the variation in elevation. Generally, temperature of air decreases on the average at the rate of 6.5 degrees centigrade per kilometer increase in elevation. And because of this, although situated in the same latitude, the place with higher elevation enjoys climate colder than that of the other places. মানে যিমানে হাইট বাঢ়ি যায় সিমানে কি হয়, ঠাণ্ডা বেছি হয়. সেইকাৰণে একেটা লেটিটিউডত থকাৰ পাছতো যদি হাইট বেলেগ বেলেগ হয় প্লেচবিলাকৰ, তেতিয়া তাহাঁতৰ ক্লাইমেট বেলেগ বেলেগ হয়. মানে লোৱাৰ হাইটত থকাবিলাকৰ ক্লাইমেটটো গৰম হ'ব, আৰু বেছি হাইটত থকা প্লেচবিলাকৰ ক্লাইমেটটো ঠাণ্ডা হ'ব. Although situated is in the equatorial region, The high mountainous region enjoys very cold climate and mountain peaks are covered by snows. মানে যদি ইকুৱেটৰ ৰিজনত আছে তথাপিতো কি হয় মাউণ্টেইনছবিলাকৰ হাইট বেছি হয় আৰু হাইট বেছি হোৱাৰ কাৰণে মাউণ্টেইনছ এৰিয়াৰ ক্লাইমেটটো কোল্ড হয় আৰু তাৰ পিক্সবিলাক কি হয় দে আৰ কভাৰ্ড বাই দ্য স্নোজ এণ্ড অলদো Allahabad and Shillong are situated in the same latitude and because of high elevation Shillong experience climate much colder than that of Allahabad. মানে এই দুইটা প্লেছৰ কি হয় লেটিটিউডটো সেম কিন্তু হাইটটো বেলেগ শিলঙৰ হাইট বেছি সেইকাৰণে শিলঙত কি আছে ক্লাইমেটটো ঠাণ্ডা আৰু এলাহাবাদৰ হাইটটো কম সেইকাৰণে তাত ক্লাইমেটটো বেছি ঠাণ্ডা নহয় The next factors nearness to sea. During summer, landmass remains warmer than the water bodies, and during winter, the water bodies remain relatively warmer than the landmass. মানে summerত land area বেছিকৈ গৰম হয় water areaতকৈ আৰু winterত water area বেছিকৈ গৰম হয় land areaতকৈ. When the landmass gets heated during summer, the cold air blowing from the sea and oceans and gives comfort. And on the other hand, when the landmass becomes cold during winter, the relatively warm air starts blowing from the sea and land temperature increases. And thus the places located near the sea and oceans enjoy neither too warm nor too cold climate and the temperature variation in summer winter becomes less. Means during the summer the cold air blowing from the sea and ocean and during winter the warm air blowing from the sea and ocean and land temperature increases and in this way the places which are located near the sea and ocean they enjoy neither too warm nor too cold climate. And this type of climate is called maritime climate. The oceanic islands under the impact of maritime climate enjoy moderate climate. But as one goes into the interior of the continents, temperature increases and the variation in summer and winter temperature also increases. The climate which is experienced in the middle part of the continents is called continental climate. মানে যেতিয়া সি বা ওচেনৰ কাষৰ পৰা কণ্টিনেণ্টৰ ভিতৰলৈ গৈ থকা হয় তেতিয়া কি হয় টেম্পাৰেচাৰ ইনক্ৰিজ হয় আৰু লগতে সামাৰ আৰু উইণ্টাৰতো টেম্পাৰেচাৰটো চেঞ্জ হয় আৰু ইনক্ৰিজ হয় দেন ক্লাইমেট হুইচ ইজ এক্সপিৰিয়েঞ্চ ইন দ্য মিডল পাৰ্ট অফ দ্য কণ্টিনেণ্টছ দিছ ওৱান কল কণ্টিনেণ্টেল ক্লাইমেট মানে কণ্টিনেণ্টৰ ভিতৰত থকা ক্লাইমেটটো কণ্টিনেণ্টেল ক্লাইমেট আৰু সি আৰু ওচেনৰ কাষত থকা ক্লাইমেটটো হৈছে মেৰিটাইম ক্লাইমেট Next factor, ocean currents. The climate of a place is also controlled by ocean currents. Some ocean currents are warmer while others are cold. The warm ocean currents flowing by the side of the places along the sea coast increase the temperature of air. On the other hand, the cold ocean currents flowing by the side of the places along the sea coast decrease the air temperature of those places and thus cold and warm ocean currents cause cold and warm climates along the coast. Means climate also depends on ocean currents. Some ocean currents are warmer and some are cold. When the warm ocean currents flowing by the side of the places along the sea coast, then temperature increase. But when the cold ocean currents flowing by the side of the places along the sea coast, then temperature decrease. মানে warm ocean currents flow কৰিলে temperature increase হয় আৰু cold ocean currents flow কৰিলে temperature decrease হয়. Means both cold and warm ocean currents cause the cold and warm climates along the coast. The next factor is location of hills and mountains. Location of hills and mountains also affect the climate of any place. The winds receive obstruction from the hills and mountains. If the moisture-carrying winds strike the mountains and ascend along the slope, then by the process of condensation, rainfall takes place on the windward slope. But on the leeward slope, there occurs no rainfall, and hence the region becomes dry. And because of obstructions offered by hills and mountains, the winds bring about variations in climates in the foothills as well as mountainous regions. Means climate of any place also affect by the location of hills and mountains, because the winds they receive obstruction from the hills and mountains. Already আমি orography rainfall পঢ়োতে তাত পাইছিলোঁ কেনেকৈ হিলছ বা মাউণ্টেইনছে obstruction create কৰে wind movementত. If the moisture carrying winds strike the mountains, মানে যেতিয়া moisture carry কৰা winds মাউণ্টেইনছত ষ্ট্ৰাইক কৰে তেতিয়া কি হয়, সেই moisture carrying winds খিনি শ্লোপৰ সহায়ত ওপৰলৈ উঠি যায়, মাউণ্টেইনৰ যিটো শ্লোপ থাকে তাৰ সহায়ত ওপৰলৈ উঠি যায়. Then by the process of condensation rainfall takes place on the windward slope. তাৰ windward slopeটোত কি হয়, rainfall হয়, but তাৰ opposite side means the leeward slopeত rainfall নহয় আৰু সেই ৰিজনটো কি হয়, dry হৈ যায়. And because of obstruction offered by the hills and mountains, the winds bring about variation in climates in the foothills as well as in the mountainous regions. For example, the high Himalayan mountains offer obstruction to the moisture carrying southwest monsoon, and as a result heavy rainfall takes place on the southern slopes of the Himalayas and also in the Ganga-Brahmaputra valley during the monsoon season. But the Tibetan plateau located on the leeward side receives little or no amount of rainfall. মানে যেতিয়া southwest monsoon blow কৰে তেতিয়া সেই monsoon wind Himalayan mountainত strike কৰে আৰু strike কৰাৰ বাবে Himalayan mountainৰ যিটো windward slope সেই slopeত বৰষুণ হয়, heavy rainfall হয় আৰু লগতে গংগা ব্ৰহ্মপুত্ৰ ভেলীটো heavy rainfall হয় during monsoon seasonal. But তাৰ leeward sideত মানে opposite sideত মানে টিবেটান প্লেটুত কি হয়, rainfall কম হয় বা rainfall একেবাৰে নহয়. But on the other hand, the Himalayas have offered obstruction to severely cold wind blowing from the northern part of Asia, and thus Indian subcontinent is quite safe from the severe cold wave from the north. আৰু লগতে যেতিয়া নৰ্থৰ পৰা severe cold wind blow কৰে সেই উইণ্ডটো একেধৰণে হিমালয়ান মাউণ্টেইনত ষ্ট্ৰাইক কৰে আৰু হিমালয়ান মাউণ্টেইনত ষ্ট্ৰাইক কৰাৰ কাৰণে কি হয়, সেই হেভি কোল্ড উইণ্ডখিনি হিমালয় মাউণ্টেইনটো পাৰ হৈ যাব নোৱাৰে আৰু পাৰ হৈ যাব নোৱাৰাৰ কাৰণে আমাৰ যি ইণ্ডিয়ান সাবকণ্টিনেণ্ট সেই ইণ্ডিয়ান সাবকণ্টিনেণ্টটো ছেফ হৈ থাকে সেই সিভিয়াৰ কোল্ড ৱেভৰ পৰা যিটো নৰ্থৰ পৰা আহে. Means the location of hills and mountains it also create the variations in the different climate in different places. The next factor is wind. Winds play an important role to affect the climate of a place. On the basis of their characteristics, winds may be of different types such as dry wind, moisture-laden wind, warm wind, cold wind, etc. Means winds also affect the climate, and according to their characteristics of the wind, winds may be of different types such as dry wind, moisture-laden wind, warm wind, cold wind, etc. Because of such characteristics of winds, the places enjoy warm, cold, humid or dry climates. Means according to the characteristics of the winds, the different places have different types of climates. For example, warm climate, cold climate, humid climate, dry climates, etc. Generally, the winds blowing from the equator region are warm and those blowing from the polar regions are cold. মানে ইকুৱেটৰ ৰিজনৰ পৰা ব্লো কৰা উইণ্ড সদায় গৰম আৰু পোলাৰ ৰিজনৰ পৰা ব্লো কৰা উইণ্ড সদায় কোল্ড. Again, the winds blowing across the vast water bodies carry enormous amount of moisture, and such winds being humid can yield rainfall. But the winds blowing across the landmass carry less amount of moisture and hence they are dry and unable to yield rainfall. মানে যেতিয়া wind water bodiesৰ ওপৰেদি ব্লো কৰে তেতিয়া হি মইশ্চাৰ কেৰি কৰে আৰু মইশ্চাৰ কেৰি কৰাৰ কাৰণে ৰেইনফল হয়. বাট যেতিয়া উইণ্ড লেণ্ডমাছৰ ওপৰেদি ব্লো কৰে তেতিয়া মইশ্চাৰ বেছিকৈ কেৰি কৰিব নোৱাৰে আৰু সেইবাবে তাত কি হয়, ৰেইনফল কম হয় আৰু সেই প্লেচবিলাক ড্ৰাই হয়. The wind direction also affects the climate of a place. The winds bearing moisture yield rainfall in the places over which they travel. For example, the southwest monsoon, while blowing across the Bay of Bengal, carries enormous amount of moisture with it. When this moisture-carrying monsoon enters into Meghalaya, Assam and northeast, more rains are caused. Means when winds travel over a places, then winds bearing moisture from that places. For example, the southwest monsoon, when blowing across the Bay of Bengal, it carries the moisture from the Bay of Bengal. And when this moisture carries monsoon wind enters into the Meghalaya, Assam and northeast, more rains are caused. মানে Bay of Bengal ওপৰেদি যেতিয়া southwest monsoon blow কৰে তেতিয়া Bay of Bengal পৰা moisture collect কৰে আৰু collect কৰাৰ পাছত যেতিয়া এই monsoon wind মেঘালয় আসাম আৰু নৰ্থ ইষ্টত এন্টাৰ কৰে তেতিয়া সেই প্লেস বিলাকত কি হয় rainfall হয়. The next factor is characteristics of land. Lands may be of various types depending on the textural composition of soil. Means depend on textural composition of soil such as sandy soil, rocky soil, alluvial soil, etc. Lands are different types. The sandy and rocky soils get easily heated due to sunshine and also get cold soon after radiation. মানে sandy আৰু rocky soil easily গৰম হয় sunshine বাবে আৰু easily cold হয় after radiation. And because of this region, the days are hot and nights are very cold in the deserts. On the other hand, the alluvial soils are wet and temperature differences of such soils is not more. কিন্তু alluvial soil কি বুলি কৈছে wet হয় আৰু সেইবাবে তাত temperature difference to বেছি নাই. Again, the soils covered by vegetations and forests remain usually wet and soil temperature is also less. মানে যিবিলাক soil vegetation বা forest cover কৰি আছে সেই soil বিলাক wet হয় আৰু তাত soil temperature কম হয়. Against this, the barren soils are dry and this get heated soon. কিন্তু barren soil বিলাক কি হয় dry হয় আৰু easily গৰম হয়. So the places with less amount or no amount of vegetation generally experience dry and hot climate. মানে যিবিলাক অঞ্চলত vegetation cover কম তাত কি হয় climate to dry হয় আৰু hot হয়. The next factor is slope of the land. As a factor of weather and climate, the slope of land is important. The sloping lands facing the sun receive vertical sun rays and thus temperature increases. On the other hand, the land sloping against the sun receive less solar temperature. মানে যদি sloping land to sunor ফালে face কৰে তেতিয়া sun rays vertically receive কৰে আৰু temperature increase হয় আৰু যদি তাৰ opposite হয় তেতিয়া sun rays কমকে receive কৰে আৰু temperature কম হয়. It is a fact that the land sloping southward in the northern hemisphere and land sloping northward in the southern hemisphere receive more temperature from the sun. মানে northern hemisphere land sloping to southward আৰু southern hemisphere land sloping to northward আৰু সেইবাবে তাহাঁতি বেছিকৈ temperature receive কৰে sunৰ পৰা. And because of this, the south facing slopes of the Himalayas and Alps experience more temperature than that on the north facing slopes. And besides temperature variation, rainfall variation is also caused due to slope of land. Means in that areas the temperature variation occurs as well as the rainfall variation also occurs due to the slope of the land. The land facing the moisture carrying winds receive more rainfall while the slopes of the opposite sides suffer from rainfall deficiency. And the differences in temperature and rainfall caused due to slope of land obviously affect the climate of a place. মানে যিবিলাক লেণ্ডে মইশ্চাৰ কেৰিং উইণ্ডছ ফেচ কৰে তাহাঁতৰ তাত ৰেইনফল বেছিকৈ হয় আৰু তাৰ অপজিট ছাইডত কি হয় ৰেইনফল ডেফিচিয়েঞ্চি হয় মানে ৰেইনফল কম হয়. The last factor is vegetation. Vegetation has its direct impact on climate. The regions of dense vegetation provide congenial conditions for rainfall. The atmospheric air in and around forest remains wet and helps to cause rains. But the regions without vegetation enjoy scanty of rainfall. It is now observed throughout the world that rainfall is decreasing and atmospheric temperature is increasing in the regions where large-scale forest destruction has been caused. Means vegetation is create direct impact on climate because the regions which have the heavy vegetation they provide a congenial conditions for the heavy rainfall. The vegetation or the forest covers places remains wet and they helps to cause the rains. But the regions which have not any vegetation cover, they enjoy the scanty of rainfall. মানে য'ত vegetation cover কম তাত rainfall খুব কম হয়. It is now observed throughout the world that rainfall is decreasing. মানে এতিয়া আমি অবজাৰ্ভ কৰিলে দেখিব পাওঁ যে ৱৰ্ল্ডত ৰেইনফলৰ পৰিমাণটো কমি গৈছে আৰু তাৰ কমি যোৱাৰ মেইন কাৰণটো কি হ'ল ডেষ্ট্ৰাকশ্যন অফ দ্য ফৰেষ্ট এৰিয়া মানে ফৰেষ্ট এৰিয়া ডেষ্ট্ৰাক্ট কৰাৰ কাৰণে ৰেইনফলৰ পৰিমাণটো কমি গৈছে চ' ইন দিছ ৱে দ্য ভেজিটেশ্যন দে অলছ' ক্ৰিয়েট দ্য ইম্পেক্ট অন ক্লাইমেট